Welcome to their channel Smart Magazine. I'm Sanjay Mutakuta. Today, we are going to start the Adobe Photoshop Beginner Tutorials, lesson number 3. In this tutorial, we'll look at some essential preferences in Photoshop that every beginner should know about. The preferences are where we find all sorts of options that control Photoshop's appearance, behavior and performance. As we'll learn, Photoshop's preferences are divided into categories. Let's start with the general category. To access the preferences on a Windows PC, go up to the Edit menu and from there, choose Preferences down near the bottom of the list, and then General. This opens the Photoshop Preferences dialog box. The categories we can choose from are listed in the column along the left. Options for the currently selected category appear in the main area in the center. At the moment, the general category is selected. The first option we'll look at found in the General Preferences is Export Clipboard. This option can affect the overall performance of your computer. When we copy and paste images or layers in Photoshop, the copied items are placed into Photoshop's clipboard. The clipboard is the part of your computer's memory, its RAM, that's set aside for Photoshop to use. Your computer's operating system also has its own clipboard. When Export Clipboard is enabled, any items stored in Photoshop's clipboard are also exported to your operating system's clipboard. This allows you to then paste the copied items into a different app like Adobe Illustrator or InDesign. By default, Export Clipboard is enabled checked. To help keep your computer running smoothly, disable uncheck this option. Next, let's look at a few options that let us customize Photoshop's interface. Click on the Interface category on the left. The first option we'll look at is Color Theme. This option controls the overall color of Photoshop's interface. To choose a different color theme, click on its swatch. As you can see, the whole interface color will be changed. Another option worth looking at in the interface preferences is UI font size. UI font size controls the size of the text in Photoshop's interface. To make the text bigger, choose either medium or large. You'll need to close and restart Photoshop for the change to take effect. Next, let's move on to the file handling preferences. Choose the file handling category on the left. By default, autosave is set to back up your work every 10 minutes, as you can see. That's usually fine. Another important option in the file handling preferences is Recent File List Contains. This option determines how many of your previously opened files Photoshop will keep track of. By default, Photoshop will keep track of the last 10 files you worked on. You can access your recent files by going up to the File menu in the menu bar and choosing Open Recent. Next, let's look at some settings that have to do with Photoshop's performance. Choose the Performance category on the left. The Memory Usage option in the Performance category controls how much of your computer's memory is reserved for Photoshop. Photoshop loves memory and will generally run better the more memory it gets. By default, Adobe reserves 60% of your computer's memory for Photoshop. If Photoshop is struggling when you're working on large files, try increasing the memory usage value. Another option that can directly impact Photoshop's performance is History States. History States refers to the number of steps that Photoshop keeps track of as we work. The more steps it remembers, the more steps we can undo to get back to an earlier state. In Photoshop CS6, the default number of history states was 20. These are the most important preferences. You can go to other preferences and do some changes as you prefer. But not so much important. After the All Changes, to accept your changes, click OK to close the Preferences dialog box. Remember that some of the changes you've made will only take effect after you restart Photoshop. Finally, don't forget to subscribe our channel. And also hit the bell icon aside to get the smart notifications as soon as we added a new video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.